Hey people, it's Rhiannon here. We're just diving into some seriously wicked stuff on this episode of hashtag Tell Me Your Story. Get ready to see the real deal of never giving up and the amazing comeback that follows. I'm your host Rhiannon, and guess what? We've got our host in the house today. Big up Danielle.
Hi everyone.
So get ready, because this is hashtag Tell Me Your Story. Hold tight for the pure magic of making the strong comeback, and let's dive straight into hashtag Danielle's Her Tale of Two Cities. Danielle, thank you for sharing your journey with us today. Can you take us back to your turbulent childhood and tell us some of the challenges you faced that led you into the school to prison pipeline?
Yeah, Rhi. Well, I had a typical council estate upbringing. My mum and dad split up when I was young, so my mum was a single mother for most of my early years, on benefits. So, there was a lot of poverty. There was a lot of domestic violence still between my mum and dad for quite a few years after they split up.
Yeah.
So we moved around a lot because of it. Sometimes I'd start at school one day and I'd go home to find out that we were moving again. So I never had a chance to fit in and really find my identity when I was younger.
And settle in.
Yeah. And it caused a lot of behaviour in me, like lying to fit in and exaggerating and, trying to make an impression as fast as I could before we'd move on to the next place to try and have some friends, which really only ever got me into trouble.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah, definitely. But as I look back now, I laugh, but it's the sort of things that did get me into trouble.
Yeah.
So we ended up finally getting a house in this council estate in St. Mellons. And when I went to high school, none of the kids from my school went to the same high school as me. I knew a lot of the kids that went there, but I didn't grow up with them, hadn't seen them since like really early on, like nursery days, but I knew who they were because they were in the next estate. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, because normally you go from like primary school to like high school together normally, don't you, with like your friends and stuff like that?
Yeah, well, I wasn't in a Catholic primary school, which is the Catholic primary schools went to my high school, St. Iltid's. But I was in Willowbrook in St. Mellons, which most of the kids weren't Catholic there. I was, so my mum wanted me to go to St. Iltid's.
Right.
But I was the only girl on the football team. That was my passion when I was in school.
Yeah.
So I had behavioural issues, as they called it. I'm not undiagnosed, but I think I have dyslexia with numbers. I think it's dyscalculia. I'm not too sure. But I've always struggled with maths and stuff. So academic stuff wasn't my passion in school. The sports was. Yeah. And I found a passion in football. So I think that is what kept me grounded the first 2 years of high school.
Yeah, definitely.
Even though I was being bullied because the girls didn't like me because I was the only girl on the football team, and I was,
as there goes, jealousy.
Yeah, But when I turned 14, I was told then that I wasn't allowed to play with the boys anymore. Obviously, because puberty, whatever. The boys then could be too rough with the girls, whatever. I would probably be more likely me being too rough with the boys.
Like you wouldn't be playing football if you do. Like you're gonna get roughed up, maybe to fall over or whatever. You're willing. Obviously, you really enjoy football. I think that was a bad choice to kick you off that football team.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's still happening to girls today. But there was no girls' football team in the school then.
Yeah.
So instead now of me like looking forward to breaks and lunches to go out and play football, I had nothing.
Yeah.
So then I was around the other kids, and I ended up in year 9 having 9 fights in the 1 year. And I went mad. I had nothing to keep me distracted, nothing to keep my attention, nothing to keep my energy under control once they took football off me. And that was it. Like there was no one had any control over me in school. There was domestic violence going on at home. And like, so I was in school, I was chaos. I was murdering.
Yeah, you're just misbehaving because you've got so much going on in your life.
Yeah, definitely. And they kicked me out anyway in year 9. I was expelled permanently, and that was the end of my education. So I was 14 when they kicked me out. Like I had no intervention. My mum didn't have no intervention. She tried to get me into another school, but it didn't happen. But my mum's marriage actually broke down then after I got kicked out of school. My mum had a bit of a breakdown. There was a lot of stuff going on personally. So I went wild. I did the family unit, which was the first time it'd been stable in years, went back to being chaotic and unstable. And I just went off the rails. So like from 15, I was out clubbing. I was then doing credit card fraud. I was then roped into ferrying drugs from London to Cardiff.
Just gets worse and worse, doesn't it?
Yeah, so I was exploited into county lines. That was like 25 years ago. And me, I just wanted to impress everybody. That attitude of trying to fit in so hard. And, you know, I was doing things that most girls didn't get involved in those days at a young age, such a young age. I ended up in prison at 16.
Wow.
And it was a few months for remand. By the time I went to court, the charges were lowered, and I ended up having probation. But that was my first intro to jail. And it was a couple of weeks. I think it might have been 6 weeks or something while I was waiting on a court date. But that again didn't bother me. Didn't scare me off. It didn't.
Yeah, when really at that age, it should really scare you. It should maybe put the fear in you and maybe come out and not do that again.
Yeah, and again, I think because I moved around so much, and I had that I don't give a fuck attitude. I was angry at the world. And it was just another opportunity to show off, to try and fit in, to make some friends. And it just flew by, to be honest with you. And then I come out. I was doing nothing in Cardiff. And I had an opportunity then to go to Dublin when I was 17.
Wow.
So I didn't think nothing of it. Jumped on a ferry, went to Dublin.
Wow.
And started again over there. Well, thought I was starting again over there. But again, my personality at the time and, you know, the traits that I had of trying to fit in got me involved in the wrong people over there again. So I was involved. The things that I'd seen over there, it was a crazy country. I'd been in houses where there was guns, with hand grenades, and there was the circles I found myself in was quite shocking, to be honest with you.
When you look back now, you think, wow, like that is very dangerous. You know, that could have been very risky for me.
Yeah, and like
it's scary.
It's not things that I could talk about, obviously, for obvious reasons, go into any further detail. But it is a crazy situations I found myself in over there. And to be honest with you, one word I could have said wrong over there, and that could have been the end of it.
I know. That's what the scary part is.
Yeah, definitely. But it didn't bother me at all. I think I thrived on the danger. But eventually the drugs taken over there, it led to heroin. And heroin at 18, I ended up on heroin. And that destroyed everything. So
I bet.
I ended up shoplifting. When my habit got really bad, I ended up losing my flat because I couldn't afford to pay for it no more. Became homeless. I was living on the streets, living in squats. It took about 2 or 3 years for that to happen. Because I was shoplifting and I was on heroin for a while before it got really bad. But that's where it led to.
Yeah, it does take a while for it to like take you that far, I suppose.
Yeah. And so yeah, I ended up homeless. I was living in squats.
Wow.
And
that age, like, as well, you're meant to be enjoying life and just,
you
know, being a teenager, really, I suppose.
It got to the point where I couldn't even shoplift anymore. You know, because I didn't have, I used to like do makeup and and hair to go in and try and have different disguises so I could get away with it because I was doing it so regular.
Yeah.
But when I became homeless, then it wasn't an option of doing that, and my
No.
face got known. I was doing stints in and out of prison just on remand, and they didn't give me a sentence. It was just in and out on stints and remand, and then I'd get
Right.
out with a fine or with whatever when they got me back to court. But yeah, it was just when I turned, I think it was 2003, I just had enough. That
Yeah.
life, I couldn't live that life anymore. It wasn't for
No,
me. And I think it was the accumulation of all the trauma that I went through as a child and the repeated trauma then that I was putting myself in
it does.
as a teenager contributed to that. And I just had to get out of it then.
Yeah. It is so hard. It is definitely, and heroin is really, really hard. So, and I know that from experience, but addiction, it can be challenging to battle and fight, especially such at a young age. But can you share with us the turning point that led you to seek help for heroin and addiction in 2003?
Yeah, like I said just now, it was just the accumulation of my life deteriorating. When I was living in squats and that, I had totally given up by that stage. I
Yeah,
felt like I had no one to love
definitely.
me. I was in a country on my own. I had
Yep.
no one to reach out to. And my mum had been over in the country, but we wasn't connected at this time
Right.
because of the
Okay.
drugs.
Yeah.
Um, but I totally got sucked into that world. I was lost in that world. Nobody ever knew where I was. I ended up selling drugs in the city centre just to
Wow.
try and get my own
Yep.
bit because I couldn't shoplift anymore. And it
Yeah.
was just like, I can't do it. The drug court in Dublin is an option you have when you're committing crime for drugs.
Right. Okay.
So it got to the stage where I was going to get a sentence, and the judge gave me the option of entering the drug courts.
That's good.
Um, so they take you out of the criminal court and put you in the drug court, and you do a program. Firstly, you attend weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, and the judge works with you, assesses your progress every time you're there, and then gets you on a program and helps you get out of the situation you're in. And if you do that, then you don't get a prison sentence.
That's really good.
Yeah, it is, and it's a good incentive,
Yeah.
and it's a good program. I didn't complete the program. I went through it. I was doing great.
Right.
I was excused from the program because I ended up in full-time education. I went
That's
and
good
done
though.
a level 5 legal practice and procedures. So the judge
Amazing.
shortened my drug court order,
That's
and I
amazing.
was able to go and do that. But I weaned off the program with the methadone. They allowed me to do it at my pace and
That's
at
good.
the milligrams I wanted to drop, and I was able to come off that. Because I'd done it at such a slow pace, it wasn't such a big deal.
Yeah.
I did it really slow and really
Yeah.
small amounts in the end, so I was able to come off it. But I didn't do any therapy. I didn't really address my addiction. I just thought
Right.
because I
Okay.
wasn't using the drug anymore, I was fine.
Yes.
But I was still going out. I was partying. I was taking coke and E, um, and I ended up moving back to Cardiff in 2012,
Right. Okay.
thinking I was fine. Like this was nearly 10 years later. And
Yeah.
I'd stayed off the heroin. I was working. I was doing okay, but I was going out on the weekends and I was partying, and I'd done that for like 10 years, 9, 10
Right.
years. And so like I thought I was cured. I thought, no, my addiction's gone. I don't have a
Yeah.
problem.
No.
And yeah, and then I ended up moving back to Cardiff in 2012, and I ended up straight away working in a pub that was
Wow.
like shameless. Everyone was amazing in there. Like there were some amazing characters in there, but the pub was
I
like
just realised
shameless.
what you said. Shameless.
Yeah, it
Do
was.
you know what? It only just twigged that you meant shameless. I was like,
Yeah, there was so much drugs in there and criminal activity, and
wow.
it's closed down now, but It was a crazy pub. So it wasn't the best place for me to land when I got back to Cardiff, because
No.
I was straight away, I was bumping into friends I hadn't seen for years. I
Yeah.
was partying a lot.
Right.
Um, I ended up in a relationship in 2014. And in 2015, I was still like just like using coke every now and again, but I didn't
Yeah.
think I had a problem, even though I wouldn't go out without it. So there was a
Yeah.
habit there,
So
but I was in denial back then. I didn't really
definitely.
understand addiction because I had never really looked
It's
into it properly.
no, and then you've gone from there to there, and like you haven't give yourself time. So moving back to Cardiff in 2012 seemed to be the turning point in your journey. Can you talk about the difficulties you faced during the time and how you cope with them?
Yeah, so like I said, coming back in 2012, I ended up in that pub, which wasn't the best sort of
Very
atmosphere
good,
for
yeah.
someone like me.
Yeah.
I ended up getting into trouble in it.
It's because you
But
end up like you, and plus, like you said, you didn't do some of the things that maybe you probably should have. So you're just going back into it, I suppose.
yeah, definitely, I hadn't learned anything at this
Yeah.
stage.
Yeah.
And it was in 2015, I wanted to have a baby.
Right. Okay.
So I decided to try for a baby.
Okay.
And over the period of 18 months, I had 9 miscarriages.
Wow.
Polycystic ovaries. I found out. So the first couple were pregnancies where I tried to get pregnant. I had a couple of miscarriages. I didn't get no mental health support.
Oh,
Um, my mental health really plummeted. And because there was coke use, a sporadic coke use, I ended up diving into that a lot more. And I
right.
ended up back in addiction with the cocaine. I was buying cocaine to go to work, and like I'd only earn £35 a shift, and at that time it was costing me £40 a gram.
Wow.
Yeah, so like it
So,
was costing me a fiver to go to work every night.
oh
So I
my
wasn't
God.
earning no money. So that was like my sort of socializing.
Right. Okay. Yeah. It's,
Um, and it was probably what was keeping me grounded at the time, of going further into it. But
yeah.
as with drugs and with everything else, it eventually led to me losing that job.
Yeah.
So I ended
Definitely.
up on benefits. My mental health was through the roof. I'd been using coke, and then like my benefits got stopped for missing an appointment due to one of the miscarriages.
And
I
you
got
didn't get no support through these miscarriages at all.
No, none. And looking back, I've been on the waiting list for counselling for ages, and nobody ever contacted me. So I'm probably not on that waiting list now since COVID and stuff.
Wow.
Um, but yeah, I never had no support. Um, I,
That's disgusting. I'm sorry. After that
yeah,
many miscarriages, they should be giving you support. It's like, I'm sorry.
yeah.
I,
Well, I went at Christmas to New Year's 2016, going to 2017. I attempted suicide by slitting my wrists.
wow.
Um, and the ambulance came. Luckily enough, I had put pressure on it, because for one, I didn't really want to kill myself. So
Yeah, you didn't realize how much you'd done, I suppose. You just wanted
yeah,
to
a
do that.
second I did it, I realized
Yep.
I'd made a mistake.
Yep.
I hit an artery.
Yeah.
So the blood just started squirting everywhere. My flat was like a murder scene.
Oh, wow.
And luckily enough, I put pressure on it. And where I
Yeah.
put pressure on it, a blood clot formed over
That's
where it was
lucky.
gushing from, and it stopped. Yeah, so they were able to stitch it up when I got to the hospital.
That's really lucky.
But you could see I did it with a razor blade, so it's
Right.
clear to any medical professional what I did.
What you were
Um,
trying to do.
yeah, and I told them that I broke it on a bit. I cut it on a bit of glass. Um, but they just gave me a leaflet, which she knew because it was about attempting suicide, feeling suicidal, and patched me up and sent me on my way. So there was a lot
Wow.
of telltale signs and a lot of places where someone could have
So yeah, I
intervened.
was just about to say that someone could have picked it up and actually helped you before you walked back out of there, and maybe, although you're amazing now, that could have ended a bit different then. You could have had more support going through your journey. I just think it's absolutely appalling that they just made you walk out with a leaflet. I'm sorry.
I could have been the type of person to go out and really do it the next
That's what I'm
time.
saying. And like that would have been on, I'm sorry, that would have been on their heads, because they should, as medical supports and stuff like that, they should have known the signs, definitely. And they should have actually supported you through that. I'm sorry to hear that, Dan. That's really bad.
Yeah, and it's happened to a lot of people.
Yeah,
You know, they're so overrun in A&E
I get
these
that.
days
I
where
get
you're
that.
just patched up and things are missed, and that's why these services shouldn't be
Yeah,
under so much strain, because these
no,
things are missed when nurses and doctors are overworked. So
definitely. They are. And it is horrible to hear that people are just being sent on their way, because I wouldn't like that at all. But so the miscarriages in 2015 must have been incredibly challenging for you and emotionally. How did you navigate through the difficult times, and what steps did you take to regain the control of your life?
wow. It was
Wow.
quite a while before I got control of my life, because
Right.
after the miscarriages, the cocaine then turned into a crack addiction.
Okay.
So it escalated and it got even worse. Again, I wasn't getting no mental health support,
No.
and I was self-medicating with drugs, so I didn't feel what I was
Mm.
feeling. Um, but this led to me back shoplifting. Um,
Back
you
into
know,
the chaotic life again.
back in, and I was in it for 2.5 years. Um, I ended up like getting so bad that like your hygiene, everything was a different level on crack.
Yeah,
You
it
didn't
is.
care. The second you had a pipe, you couldn't stop. Whereas with heroin, you could, have a bit of the last. You could take
Yeah,
enough to
last you.
last
You
you
could
the
always
day,
put
and
that down, but you can't put the crack down. You can put the
no,
heroin down, but you can like make it last. But with the crack, you're smoking it all there and then.
yeah. And I was out
It's
shoplifting like 3, 4 times a
oh
day,
wow,
coming back,
wow.
selling it, smoking the money. Shit, I'd have to go back out because I smoked it all too
And you
fast.
need to, yeah. Oh no, I know.
That
Wow.
life, the thoughts of it now, I'm so disconnected from that
Yeah.
person that I was now. But like it really took me to depths where
You
like
never thought you'd
I
be.
would never ever imagine myself today
Yeah.
being like how my hygiene was, how my flat was, how I was living. It was like total,
Yeah.
it was disgusting. Do you know what I mean? I had no morals left, no dignity left, totally stripped me of everything. And
It does. It that drug really does.
yeah, it was 10 times worse than the heroin, and it done it in a hell of a lot of quicker time.
It
I was
does.
um
It's
I was wearing age 11 jeans. I was
wow.
so skinny, and I'd be wearing tracksuit bottoms under them as well.
Yeah.
Like I was literally skin and bone, and like I'm 5'10" and 13 stone. I'm not never a skinny girl. Do you know what I
Mm.
mean?
Yeah, yeah.
So for me to be wearing age 11 clothes, it shows how skinny I was. I wouldn't be able to get half of my leg. Do you know what I mean? Into
Yeah.
age 11 clothes now.
I know.
But yeah, it really took me to the depths,
It
and
does. It takes you to places where you never thought you'd go in all your life. You think I'd never go there, and then
yeah,
you do.
yeah, it's mad. And I ended up getting a sentence for 2 months.
Right.
Come back out, straight back into the
And when
life.
was that?
That was, oh, I can't remember, 2017 or something. And then in 2018, I got 5 months.
Right. Okay.
Um, so that was a bit longer, and I had a bit more time to reflect. It wasn't long enough
No,
because
but you did have a bit time then, because like you said
it
on
was like
your
a
other
break
ones.
from that life, not really a time
Yes.
to reflect because I didn't.
Right.
I ended
Okay.
up with a subby habit in there.
Oh,
So because I didn't have no crack and there was no treatment for crack, and I was climbing the walls because I didn't have any, I
yeah.
ended up turning to subbies.
Yeah.
I ended up then getting a subby habit in prison. So
Wow.
my behaviour out of prison, then I was running around the wings trying to get subbies. So it was the same sort of thing, waiting for
Yeah.
canteens to come around to swap my vapes or
Yep.
whatever I bought, whoever I'm buying whatever off. So it was like drama. But my flat got broken into while I was in there by other drug users.
Wow.
I had to ring 101 from prison and report that my flat had been broken into because my neighbour wrote to me and
Oh
said
my
there's
God.
people going in and out of your flat and using it, like the drug users. They probably thought that I'd been gone. I was there 1 minute, gone the next.
Gone.
And
Yeah.
so they were all using my flat for somewhere to use and obviously destroyed the place. But I had to ring 101 from the prison saying my flat's been broken into. I'm in Eastwood Park.
Oh my.
Can you get hold of the council to get grids up and can you go and make sure there's nobody in my property,
Did they do
please?
it?
The man on the phone was laughing. He was like, do you know what, let's stay there on the phone. He put me on loudspeaker and he rang the council. He got me through to the council, got them to go and put grids up on my property. He was actually a lovely man, like he
That's
helped me
fair
out.
play. Yeah, because some people are not thing. I'm glad he helped you with that.
Yeah, so I ended up getting grids on there.
That's good.
So when I got out, I sort of like was settled on this, and they retoxed me to come out on
Right. Okay.
methadone because I got
Yeah.
a subby habit in there. So I was on like 40 mils of methadone when I come out then because of the subbies.
Yeah.
And my plan was to stay on that, sort myself out.
Right.
Um,
Okay.
but I got back to Cardiff. The council met me outside to take my grids off, and I went in, and the flat was absolutely destroyed.
Wow.
So I was back on the pipe that day.
Right. That's. Do you know what? And when you come out, like, for your house to be like that, I'm sorry, you're gonna probably end up back on it only because you're gonna stand in that flat and think, what the hell is all this like? But so after your time in prison in 2018, you managed to turn your life around and use your experience to help others. Can you share what steps you took to make this positive transformation?
Yeah, like I said, when I first come out, I had the
Yeah.
intentions.
Right.
They
Okay.
didn't
Yeah.
happen straight away because of
Yes.
that with the flat. So for a
Which I
few
don't.
months, I ended up back using a crack and shoplifting.
Okay.
And it wasn't long. So it was about 5 months maybe. And I was just back pissed off where I had had that break, a decent enough break. I think it was like 3.5 months or 4 months I was in the prison for.
Yeah.
It was nice to have that break of not having to go and shoplift every day.
Yeah.
And when I went back out and I got back to it, I got pissed off pretty quick. And I was like, I can't do this. Like, I
Yeah. What
can't
am I
do it.
doing?
And I was thinking about it for ages. And just one day I was on the bus going in to shoplift and I just thought, I can't do this no more. I was
Yes.
missing probation. I was missing the waddle. You know what I mean? I was on the verge of fucking everything up since
Yeah.
coming
Going
back out
back
of
to that
prison.
chaotic lifestyle.
And then everything in my flat I'd had to throw out. So I had bare minimum furniture. And I was just like, I can't do this. Like, and
Yeah.
it's just going to get worse from here if I get
Yeah.
back into it fully. And I just rang my mother and I was like, Mum, I've had enough. Can I come up to you?
Mum's always
And
the
she was,
best.
yeah, and she was like, yeah, get your ass up,
Yes.
And I got off the bus, and instead of going shoplifting, I got on another bus and went up my mother's, and I stayed up
Amazing.
there for over a year.
That's
Um,
amazing.
and it was the best thing. Not as many people as lucky to have an option to go and stay away from, all that
Yes.
chaos.
Yeah, just to get away from it. I know how that feels because I've done the same. But it is, I think, in when you've had enough and you've had enough, you do need that one person to just say, come here. And practically, it's like looking after you again, really, because you do need that person to support you, maybe come do your things for you so you don't. Because, like, I know from my experience, I needed my mum to come shopping with me on the first couple of times or get my money out because, it's that case of things. So, did your mum do those things with you as well?
Yeah, so I used
Love it.
just transfer my money to her. She used to do all the shopping
Love that.
and buy everything. So I just used to give her all my money.
Love that.
The first couple of months I didn't. It ended up that way because when I got paid, I'd end up sneaking off, having a smoke and coming
Right.
back when my money was gone. But that happened for a couple of months, and my mum was like, I'm not having none of this. You either transfer me your money when you get paid, or you can't stay here. You can't keep coming back and forth when you get
Yeah.
paid and expecting me to pay for everything for the rest of the month, which is fair enough. Do you
Which
know
is
what I
fair.
mean?
Yeah.
But I had to get out of that habit of getting money and being able to not go out and buy crack with it, because that was my
It's,
habit for the last
yeah.
2 years. The second it landed in my bank, it was spent.
Yeah.
But eventually then I started transferring all of it, and I wasn't keeping any. So there was no way
No.
of me going to relapse, and I wasn't going out shoplifting again. My mum would have killed
Yes.
me. But I started engaging with the bottle.
Good.
I started engaging with my probation officer, and she seen the change in me. She said, like, I just switched like that. But Victoria was
Amazing.
amazing. And
I love that.
yeah, she took the time to get to know me. And she was like, I think you'd be really good at doing something like working towards being a support worker. You're a good communicator.
That's amazing.
And then she referred me to the Boss Project with the wallet and the peer advisor program, or the
Yep.
Aspire course as it's called today, with St. Giles Trust.
Yeah.
So I haven't looked back since then.
I know. Do you know what? And it's been one hell of a journey for you. I'm not gonna lie. You've done so many things over the last couple of years, and it's been amazing to see. But as the host of hashtag Tell Me Your Story, you give a platform to share their stories. How has your own journey influenced your approach to hosting and supporting others on the podcast? Because I know you do an amazing job on this podcast. You support me, you support everyone and people that are coming on as well.
Um, it's I have found sharing my story and sharing my truth
Yeah.
has empowered me.
Yes.
And, I want other people to be able to, like, I found that I truly couldn't get away from my addiction until I realized I couldn't go back to the person I was
Yeah.
before. That person didn't exist anymore. I
Yeah.
had to I had to go on a journey of self-discovery, refine what I liked, what I didn't like, because
Yeah.
like I had changed so much. And as you know, like drugs change the
Yeah.
way your brain works and everything. So you've got to retrain everything, regrow
You
everything,
do.
and go on self-discovery. And I've really enjoyed this part of my life. It's the first time I've been single, 5 years now, I'm drug-free. It's the first time I haven't relied on a relationship and been codependent, and I've been totally independent.
Yes.
And I'm really finding out who I am, what I like, what I dislike. And for the first time in my life, I'm feeling like I'm a whole person.
Love that.
Um, and just being able to share that and hopefully inspire people, especially people like us who are going through similar situations, or people like going through situations like our
Yeah.
guests have. And if we can openly and honestly talk about it, then that's when we'll truly help people. And I just
Definitely.
find that when I was coming through it, I didn't get to see these stories. I didn't get to hear about people's transformation and then
No.
going on to use their lived experience to help others. And it's just something that's ignited a passion in me. I'm a lived experience champion. I do believe,
Love it.
especially in the support sector, like you've got to have people there with lived experience.
Yes.
Because we're professionals, we've trained, but we've also lived it as well. So we do understand and have a bit more depth of knowledge when it comes to things like addiction and domestic violence and stuff like that, because we've actually been there and we know
Yes.
what goes on. But yeah, and it's just giving people a platform so they can share their stories,
Yeah.
and hopefully they can feel like they've inspired other people, and that inspires them to go on and do greater things as well. Because I
Does.
do think that it is an empowering thing to do.
It is, and I noticed like there are a lot of people out there doing podcasts, which I didn't hear of before, but there are like now that we're doing it, noticed that a lot of other people are doing it. I think it is really empowering, and I feel amazing doing it as well, and I feel empowered. But your resilience is absolutely inspiring. But what message do you have for the listeners who may have gone through challenging times and seeking hope for a brighter future?
What advice? So, like I said, just now, self-discovery and finding out who you are is what's important. So trying to show other people that you've changed goes on the back burner. You've got to discover yourself and deal with yourself first before you go out into the world and try and show people you've changed.
Definitely.
But coming out of addiction, especially sitting around and doing nothing is not an option. Boredom is the biggest pathway to relapse. So you've got to get out there and you've got to find something that interests you and something that you have a passion for. And obviously, when I got done the peer advisor course with St. Giles, that just made me want to go in here. This is something that I'm good at, that I have knowledge about, and nobody can take away my own lived experience from me. I know what I experienced and I know how I felt. And I was good at communicating and helping other people. And I've always loved at helping other people. So it was just like the right path for me. So I worked as a peer mentor with the Wallet while doing the peer advisor course. And then obviously St. Giles hired me. So like education was key for me. And I'm finding employment. So first of all, I was working part-time and then I went into full-time. And just having that structure, that routine, and that passion to keep you moving forward because you're doing something positive. Like I'm able to take something so negative in my life.
I know.
And now it's a positive because I'm using it for good things.
And it is mad because everybody sees it as negative. Like a lot of people that I've spoke to, they see like my past as negative. But ever since you're around St. Giles, you see it as a positive, and then you feel more empowered because it is a positive because you're now helping others.
Yeah,
I think
and
it's absolutely incredible.
it is, and it's like we know a few people that's turned their lives around now because that's the circle that we're in. But the percentage of people that actually are able to turn their lives around is quite small. So we should be proud of what we've done because it was the hardest challenge of my life. I've done it bloody twice. Do you know what I mean?
I know, and do you know what? It must have been hard because you are, like you said, you've done it twice, and once is bad enough.
So
once is bad enough for me. But but yeah, using your lived experience to help others has just been an incredible impact. And can you share some of the ways that you supported and guided others on their path to recovery?
Yeah, so I suppose my first full-time job with St. Giles was a wellbeing coach. So I was working with men on probation, what you do now. And I remember having like great relationships with the clients because I was able to tell them, right, I've been on this path you're on. Look where I am now. I was able to, address the issues I was facing. I was able to turn it around. And they looked at me like a role model. And it was great to see that they were listening to my advice. And I remember one lad, he was hard on drugs when I first met him, and I worked with him over a period of like 6 months, and he's drug free today. We worked on the tools and stuff together, and it wasn't as he done all the work.
Of course.
When he seen me and spoke to me and realized that I used to be on the same drugs as him, and and I got off it sort of lit a fire in him and showed him that he could do it as well. So even though like I showed him lots of tools like using drug diaries and stuff, like he's the one person that I truly remember from that role because he was dribbling when I first met him, and then he was on a program on methadone, but he was drug free, he was doing well, and he was back in education. So and that was the impact of lived experience. I was able to have that impact on him.
And I think more people should be saying these incredible stories, that how it's impacted on, have you having lived experience, how it's impacted on clients or even other people. I think that needs to be shared just a little bit more, and maybe, I don't know, broaden it out, because people need to know them good stories that having lived experience is helping other people.
Definitely. And it's like it opens doorways to more trusting relationships, and you can actually give them advice that is actually going to benefit them because it's tried and tested in your own life. Like, oh, this worked for me, so why don't you try this? And, you know, we know the sort of impact that these tools can have,
Yep.
whether they're good or whether they're not, especially if we've used them in our own recovery.
Yep.
So it was really helpful. My lived experience was vital in that relationship and in his decision to turn his life around. So
Yeah.
it was a really proud moment for me, but it was amazing.
I
So
love that. It has been amazing to hear, because it's made me feel a bit more, I don't know, better about my job, because obviously I'm still new to being a wellbeing coach and that, but I think where I'm seeing it now, and obviously I'm seeing that people are learning from lived experience and actually shocked by, you know, us in a full-time role helping them. And I just think it's absolutely amazing what you've done, Dan, and gone from where you have to what you're doing now and how much you've done that. And it's just been amazing to watch. But looking back at your journey, what do you believe were the most significant factors that contributed to your ability to overcome addiction and find strength in your struggles?
so I suppose we've probably touched over this over a few of the questions,
Yeah.
but definitely looking at yourself. You need to
Okay.
figure out who you are again. You need
Yep.
to find this person, this new person that you are, not the person on drugs, not the person you were before you got on drugs, the
Yep.
person you are today. And you need to put things in place. You need to take yourself out of that situation. You can't be around people who are using drugs.
Yep.
You can't be moving in the same sort of circles, having the same conversations. You need
No.
to take yourself out of these situations. And for me, it was education. I needed to get my brain working again, because sitting there, all I was thinking about was what I was missing, and that was
Yep.
the drugs. So once I became busy and I got a routine and structure in my life, I was able to stop thinking about the drugs. I was moving in new positive circles because I was in education. I was doing the peer advisor course.
Yeah.
You know, I was surrounding myself with people who wanted me to succeed, and it had a positive impact on me then.
It does.
So you have to change everything about yourself, you know, and not go, like, stay away from all them bad things that caused you to relapse or caused you to
Yeah.
take drugs in the first place, or even make you think about using, you know.
Yeah.
So, and them to the type of people that your old associates you can't be around anymore. So it is a big life change and it's a big adjustment. But if
It's
you
a massive.
really truly want to get out of addiction, you have to change everything from the ground up, and you have
It
to form
is.
new habits.
It is, and it's like a whole, like you said, a whole life change. You know, it's not just down to changing a few things. You change everything, like down to, like, I know, stupid little things like change your phone number and just change everything. Change your, like you've already covered, Dan. But there are little other things that they have to do as well. But you
Therapy.
know,
Therapy is
yes,
key. You have to do counseling to go on the
yes,
journey of self-discovery. Some people use the 12 steps, you know, the CA or the NA programs,
yeah,
which,
so
you know, is
yeah.
group counseling sort of in a way, but
Which
because they're
some people it
speaking.
works for. There are
Yeah.
lots of things out there for,
Yeah,
like,
but it's that therapy, it's that counseling, it's
hmm
that opening up and really speaking about how you feel and have someone putting it into context for you so you can pack away that trauma and move on with your life.
yeah, whether it's
Until you
group,
deal with that,
yeah,
you're never ever going to be able to get free of addiction. You have to do these steps to
yeah.
maintain a drug-free life.
And definitely, like, not obviously everyone's got their own way. Everyone's, you know, different. Like, there's some people that do prefer group work, prefer step work, CA, and or there's people that prefer like intensive therapy, not like, you know, or even just one-to-one therapy. But it's what works for you. And I think, you know,
Yeah.
just like Danielle said, self-discovery is the best starting point. But Danielle, what are your hopes and aspirations for the future of hashtag Tell Me a Story? And how do you envision the podcast continuing to inspire and uplift others?
Um, ooh, it's a question, isn't it?
I
So
know, that's what I thought.
I want it to grow, obviously. But I just want it to be somewhere where people can go and feel inspired, feel
Definitely.
like they're getting some advice and guidance. It's two-pronged, isn't it? It's showing people who are struggling that it's
Yeah.
possible to get out of this life,
Yeah.
and showing professionals that people like us can turn our lives around.
Yeah.
And it might be the third, fourth, fifth chance, but eventually we get there and we can become positive members of society. So having this podcast and having other guests on here sharing their stories similar to us is only going to show people in the world that those two things are
Definitely.
possible.
Do you know what? Definitely. And I think it's been really helpful for us as well, to be honest, because I think it's nice because we didn't hear many stories, obviously, and I think that if I remember correctly on yours, we didn't hear those positive stories and how people changed their journeys around and how they've changed their lives and now they're, you know, doing other things, running businesses or even just helping other people. And it's been kind of nice to, see everybody else as well and hear about their journeys. I
Yeah, and
think
seeing
it's
that there is possibilities of us going
yes,
further. Like I know I've made it in 2 years up to senior caseworker and now
exactly.
working on employment lead, as well as doing my degree and leadership
Yep,
management course. Like I'm flying that way. But to see people having their own businesses
I
and doing
know.
their own thing, and it's like I felt for a long time that, oh well, I'm an ex-drug user, I got
Yep,
criminal records. If
this
I
is
get a
me.
job, where am I going to go? I'm not going to go anywhere. But
This is
meeting
me.
all
That's how I
these new
felt.
people is
Yep.
showing me that I can go wherever the hell I want. Do you know what I mean? If I
Yeah.
put the hard work in, and and I have the determination, I can build a future for myself. Well, I already have built a future for myself, but
That's
an even better one. And I just hope that you know it just we just keep learning and we keep sharing our journeys along the way, because that's how people thrive, isn't it?
definitely. I don't think we're gonna stop doing this. So it's like, giving the platform for people to share their journeys because I think it's amazing, like you just said then about I never thought where I could sit there and say, oh, actually, I'm gonna be just stuck in one job. And obviously now seeing other people progress and doing all those things, it's made me see as well, like you, Dan, it's made me see, oh wow, actually, I don't have to just feel stuck in a job. I can finally go up to like, senior, and stuff like that, or you can end up running your own business. And I absolutely love the thought of that eventually. But finally, what advice would you give to individuals who may be hesitant to share their stories and experience with others, but are seeking to healing and connection?
So first of all, sharing your story, there's a million different ways you can share your story. More intimate setting with therapy, one-to-one. There's group, like you said, with CA, or there's doing something like this on a bigger scale
Yes,
with a podcast. But healing and connection, again, is rebuilding yourself, is that self-discovery.
it
It's
is.
it is, and it's about accepting your past and realizing that it doesn't define you. It doesn't make you less of a person because of what you've experienced.
No.
It actually shows that you're a more stronger, more resilient person than most to be able to go through what you've gone through, pull yourself up out of it, and
Yeah,
that shows how strong of a person you are. So once you have that healing and that connection with yourself, which is the most important thing. That's what you've got to have first, is that healing connection with yourself.
definitely.
Then you can go out and you can heal those relationships that you broke. You can make new connections and make new circles. And once you're in that positive lifestyle, and if you've experienced anything like we have with an
Yes.
organization like St. Giles, and you know, getting chances to do our testimony in front of the
Mm,
organization and stuff, which given us
I
the go
know
to go on and do things
it
like,
has.
I would never have thought that I'd be doing a social media campaign with the Women's Justice Blueprint on how sentences under 12 months, like I did, don't help people, and you're not
Yes.
in there enough time to address your addiction or do any education.
Yeah.
So you're just in and out in the same predicament, and you end up doing that multiple times. But having the opportunities to work with people high up in probation, and it's things that I would
Definitely.
have never ever dreamt of me doing, because for one, I used to have a chip on my shoulder about authority and thought
Yep.
that whole criminal justice system was there just to set me up and and ruin my bloody day.
Yeah.
But yeah, I had a bad attitude towards them. So for me to be doing things like this, and for them type of people to actually be respecting my opinion, and
Yes.
I'm able to contribute and help on such big projects. So it's good to get your voice out there. you know, and but first of all, after you've healed yourself,
Yeah,
going out there and making those connections with people who've
definitely.
been in similar situations, it just empowers you. And you know, it's very daunting to the first time you tell your journey, isn't it? Like
It is.
literally, I was
I
shaking.
couldn't breathe.
Yeah, and it's the most terrifying thought. Are they going to
It
accept
is.
me? Are they going to judge me? Do you
Yeah,
know what I mean? Are they going to see that I was a bad person? But when you do it and you get such a response like
I
we did
know.
with the cheering and the clapping, because we was in that safe space to do it,
Yeah,
it's just gives you some hope and some, yeah, I've achieved something by being here today. Do you know what I mean? And being sober and being able, I've turned my life around and being able to share my journey. And I think if anybody ever gets the opportunity to do that, do it,
do
because
it. Yeah.
it will empower you and you will feel amazing after it. So just go for it.
Definitely. And I'd say go for it as well, because I was absolutely bricking it, couldn't breathe. First paragraph, couldn't even speak, couldn't even talk. But then as soon as I got further down and further down, when I heard the cheers and then when I said I was clean for so long and I heard the cheers, that was it. I'd done my story. I wanted to get back up there and like be a host, you know,
Yeah,
and I was really new and it did empower me. But do you know what, Dan? It's been absolutely amazing hearing about your journey today. It's
guys,
been
no
really
problem.
it's been really inspiring, to be quite honest, because you inspire me every day anyway. But yeah, so on that note, guys, thank you for listening, and we hope to see you in the next episode of hashtag Tell Me a Story.
And if you haven't subscribed already, subscribe now.